Welcome to our presentation for this afternoon. My name is Jonathan Jones. I'll be your host and moderator for the afternoon. Jeff Ashby is my co-host. So we have this meeting every Sunday afternoon, and you're welcome to join us at any time. So I'm not a medical doctor. I don't claim to be one, but I am a researcher. So in fact, I'm the research director for the Healthcare Support Association of America. I work hard along with Engage Global. We're doing our best to try to pass on as much information as we can to individuals like you who may or may not be aware of some of the amazing scientific discoveries that have been brought to the market. This week, we're following up on our discussion. In fact, we're on the final leg of our discussion about where medicine meets micronutrients. Our focus here is to show the connection between not how micronutrients is better than medicine. We're not trying to say that at all. But we are saying that they do have something in common. They meet in the side effects. And we're going to talk a little bit about how modern medicine and micronutrients meet in the side effects. So just for the record, please keep in mind that meetings like this are for educational purposes only. Nothing that's said here today is intended to be a substitute for a visit to your primary healthcare physician. We strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you seek the confident medical advice of professionals that you trust. Always do that. A portion of our discussion is going to involve interviewing Dr. Kedar Prasad, and Dr. Prasad is a scientist. So please contain your questions that we may have later on to the subject matter, because Dr. Prasad is not going to give medical advice either. So, but we will present to you some, again, publicly available, accessible information that is just pure science. And all the references, if you want access to any of the reference material, just send an email. I'll be happy to share anything with you that I have, and Jeff will also share with you items that he has. For all intents and purposes, I consider myself to be a nobody, but my history goes back about 30 plus years or so in doing research. My wife and I both had a parent with diabetes, and neither one of us wanted to get it. Watching my father-in-law die, and then watching my mother die from the complications of diabetes, made me aware that I was in the wrong line of work. So my background is computer electronics and engineering. It was when the intensive care nurse said to me, when I asked her what was she doing for my mother, she said, "To be honest with you, Jonathan, we're monitoring her very closely." I said, "Well, I'm doing that." And then she went on to say, "Well, to be honest with you, we're praying for her immune system to kick in." And that's when I really was aware that I was in the wrong line of work, because if we're in a hospital and I know that they were being paid somewhere around $10,000 a day by my mother's insurance company, and they couldn't do anything for her immune system, something is seriously wrong with this picture. So that was the end of it for me. So I was no longer in computer electronics and engineering. I shifted, and I would never be in a position again where I did not have access to an immune system kicker-inner. I found several of them, but the best one of them all is the one that you're going to be hearing about today. So from that point on, I still do research. I don't stop, and I will never stop, because I believe that there is a lot of information out there that average people, common people like you and I, need to have access to. We need to have everything available to us to be able to make decisions about what we're going to do to feel better and to help our families out, improve our own health and well-being. So that kind of brings us to where our discussion begins right now. The PowerPoint presentation I'm sharing with you is really just a bunch of screenshots of information that's found right online. You can do a search for some of these things, and you'd find millions of pages that would come up. Where do you start? Which one of the millions of pages would you look at, and which is the most relevant? Well, we try to narrow it down so that you have some idea as to what are the most relevant pages. For example, let's talk a little bit about the history of modern medicine. The United States government maintains a library of published documents. It's called PubMed. So this screenshot that I'm sharing with you now, the link is there on the bottom. It's directly from the National Library of Medicine. And they take the history of modern medicine back to the year 2600 BC. That's where this Egyptian described the diagnosis and treatment of 200 different diseases. Means absolutely nothing to us today. But once you fast forward to 1922, that's when insulin was first used to treat diabetes. Now, obviously, I'm skipping a lot of things. There was about 200 different items on this list there at PubMed. But then you come forward to 2006, and that's when the first vaccine to target the cause of cancer was discovered. Has anybody heard of that vaccine, by the way? Is anyone aware that there's a vaccine that was discovered that would target the cause of cancer? Quite frankly, I'd never heard anything about it, but it's there in the Library of Medicine. Then go forward just a little bit. No, actually, let's go back in time, because this kind of brings us to one of the items that we may give a little bit of attention to today. But it was in 1987 that lovastatin was approved by the FDA as the first cholesterol-lowering drug. They began studying heart disease back around 100 and some years ago, more than 120 years ago. And finally, they reached a point where they determined that cholesterol was connected in some way to heart disease. So by 1987, the first cholesterol-lowering drug was released to the public. It was in 1985 that the brand name Lipitor was developed, and eventually 2003, Crestor came along, made by AstraZeneca. And again, I'm only just giving you a little snapshot of just a few of the advances in modern medicine. And I'm doing this because I really want you to know that modern medicine is powerful. It has changed the life expectancy of so many people in the world. If we just go back and talk about, diabetes, for example, and insulin, I just kind of flashed through that real quick. But understand something, before insulin came along, a person who was diabetic would die like someone who had AIDS. They literally would just shrivel up and die, just like they had wasting syndrome. That's what would happen to them until they figured out that pig insulin would behave in the human body just like human insulin would. And that's where that treatment for diabetes first came along. It was in 1960 that mRNA vaccines were first invented, but it wasn't until 2020 that they were first approved, received emergency use authorization by the FDA. Obviously, mRNA vaccines is all about the treatment of the pandemic that came on the scene right there in the early part of 2020. But now, with all the amazing benefits of modern medicine, there is a however side of it. The however side of it can be found right on the FDA's website. If you just go there, you do a search, you see the link for adverse reactions or side effects. And in fact, that's all I did. I just put in Google and I said side effects. And one of the first links that came up was the FDA. I figured, well, that should be the source that should give us a good definition as to what side effects are. And certainly they did. I'm giving you a couple of screenshots of it, but this is right on the home page. These 3 paragraphs are right on the home page. This is how they begin the discussion about the side effects of all medications. And it says, as you can see for yourself, drugs approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for sale in the United States must be safe and effective. So they do a risk-benefit analysis. That's what they do. So someone presents a drug for approval. They weigh the risk versus the benefits. Now, when they say risk, it's not risk to you personally, it's risk at large. So if the benefits at large are far greater than the risk at large and in general, you or I may be an exception when it comes to that, but overall, that risk-benefit analysis is what they do. That's how they determine whether or not they should approve a drug. But notice it goes on to say that both prescription and over-the-counter drugs have side effects. And the side effects can vary from minor problems like a runny nose to something more life-threatening. And that could include even a heart attack or liver damage. Both of those are questions that we want to talk to Dr. Prasad about right there. Heart attack and liver damage. We'll get to Dr. Prasad in just a moment. But when they say serious side effects, that kind of made me kind of wonder, well, what is it that they could possibly be talking about? Well, they went on to explain it in the very next paragraph. A side effect is considered serious if the result is death, if it's life-threatening, leads to hospitalization, disability, or permanent damage, then that means the side effect is considered serious. I tend to agree with that. If a medication that they prescribe or has been approved will lead to death, I'd call that pretty serious. But as you can see, notice that it says, take a good look at that. This is in the section where they refer to these as common side effects, because this does happen. There are some medications that directly lead to these kinds of consequences. We're not going to drill down deep and get into too many of them specifically. I want to try to avoid that if at all possible, but there are some, even some that have recently been approved by the FDA that do lead to death. You might remember a drug called Vioxx. It stands out to me because I went to a doctor to get a checkup. I needed a physical for some reason, traveling or something. And I had a problem with my shoulder or something at the time, or my elbow. And so I asked the doctor, I said, is there anything that can be done for this? He said, it's probably just a touch of bursitis. And he handed me a sample of something called Vioxx. He said, well, try this and see if it helps. Now, I don't know if any of you remember this, but right around the time of Desert Storm is where a lot of blowback came out about Vioxx, because people were dropping dead from heart disease, heart attacks, because of Vioxx. And it didn't get a whole lot of headline because Desert Storm and the invasion of Iraq took over. But I thought back when I saw all the class action lawsuits that were coming up about it. I thought back about that doctor that gave me that sample. I never used it. I found it in my closet one day after we were doing some spring cleaning. But I kind of got chills when I thought about the fact that this is one of the things that there were class action lawsuits about. It was causing heart disease. They paid out a couple $100 million in damages as a result of it, but it didn't matter. They made $200 or $300 billion. So it doesn't matter what they pay out. So, but anyway, that's just kind of a side point there. I found this slide also on the FDA's website. They have a list of glutathione depleting agents, and I'm showing you this one because this connects to micronutrients. This is where we begin to connect to micronutrients. You see that there are phenomenal advances in medicine. They do cause side effects. It's known that they do. But now we start talking about the dark side of it. On the same website, the FDA, they mention this list. They have this list of glutathione depleting agents. And one of them is acetaminophen, better known as Tylenol. So something as simple as Tylenol reduces or depletes the body's glutathione reserve. Now, glutathione is your body's most powerful antioxidant, critically important to protect the liver. I'm sure Dr. Prasad will tell us a little bit about that in our discussion, but critically important. But you have something like Tylenol that's depleting acetaminophen depleting glutathione in the body. That should give you chills. They also admit that drugs in general deplete glutathione levels in the body. Then in the physician's desk reference, if you dig deep enough in the PDR, you'll find under some of the medications there, one in particular that specifically raises and sustains glutathione levels. One paragraph in that particular listing for that medication has, in a paragraph, it refers to this list of glutathione depleting states, These are listed as glutathione deficient states. That should be sobering to you. And on the list, can you see that hepatitis is there? And you also can see the stroke is there. This is cataracts. All of this, these are all indications that glutathione levels could be low. So the bad news is out of the way. Now let's talk about the good news. The good news is Dr. Kedar Prasad, brilliant scientist, world-renowned scientist and researcher, was born. And this man decided, because he lived through the time when atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And as a boy, he said, somebody really should develop something that would help people survive a radiation attack, a nuclear attack down the road. And so he set out to do something about that. And in his quest to do so, he decided and became the first radiation biologist PhD in the world, the first one to become a radiation biologist PhD. As a 7-year course, he finished it in 3 years. So that's the kind of brain power we're dealing with now. Dr. Prasad is in his 80s and still packs just as much brain power today as he did when he first went through that course. He's been published more than 250 times, which means that his brain has come up with more than 250 different things that his contemporaries hadn't thought of yet. And he's still working on new things, even as we speak. He's the author of 31 books. He's working on his 32nd, 33rd or so. He'll tell us that in just a moment. But he also was a former member of the Nobel Peace Prize nominating committee. So it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce to you and to welcome to our discussion, Dr. Kedar Prasad. Dr. Prasad, thank you so much for being willing to join us today for this discussion, for an ongoing discussion that we've been having on this matter of where modern medicine meets micronutrients. How are you doing today, sir?
Very well. Thank you, Jonathan, for inviting me. And I will be glad to answer, if I can, any question that you or your audience has. And this is fun to have direct interaction with your audience about their health and well-being.
Well, we're always thrilled that you make yourself available on a Sunday afternoon, and our audience, we can't help but applaud them because there's many things that everyone could be doing on a day like today. This is a holiday weekend as well.
Yeah, I know.
So, but anyway, thank you so much. So tell us, Dr. Prasad, when it comes to side effects, I've talked to a lot of folks that are our clients for our organization, and I hear many of them say that their doctor prescribed them this or the doctor prescribed them that. And a lot of times they're trying to get us to tell them whether they should or should not, take certain drugs, and we steer as far away from that as we possibly can. But many of them, Dr. Prasad, say that they decide not to take their doctor's prescription because they look at the side effects. They're concerned about that. Could you tell us, is there another way? Is there a way that a person who has been given a prescription for something that the doctor feels they should have, but they're afraid of the side effects, is there a happy medium? Can micronutrients help with this?
Actually, Jonathan, there is. For example, I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, you mentioned about the Lipitor. And Lipitor is a very powerful agent to reduce cholesterol. And if you have a high level of cholesterol, and if you don't reduce them, they will have a heart attack and stroke. And if you live long enough, it can also increase the risk of dementia, because high cholesterol level is very bad for you. So Lipitor, that means Lipitor, at least as long as if you can modify from your diet, most of the people can't. Sometimes you have genetic basis for high cholesterol level. But so Lipitor is a very powerful and useful drug. But what Lipitor does, it inhibits the cholesterol, but in the same pathway, there is also coenzyme Q10 synthesis. So if you reduce cholesterol, you also decreases the coenzyme Q level. And coenzyme Q is extremely important for generating energy for whole body, and especially for the brain, because brain requires more energy and uses more oxygen than the other place. But they don't recommend that you take coenzyme Q10. So if you take a micronutrient, like a mixture of micronutrient which has the coenzyme Q10, then that side effects that you might see might be prevented. At the same time, you're getting benefit. Same thing you mentioned about glutathione. And glutathione antioxidant is present in the highest amount in your system. It is the most important antioxidant in your body. And so how do you increase the glutathione level? Well, there is one way is that if you use you can't take glutathione orally, right, because it is totally destroyed in your gut. So you have two choices. Then you take alpha lipoic acid, which increases this formation of glutathione, and also use N-acetylcysteine, which provides the precursor of glutathione, cysteine. And so if you do both, you have a maximal amount of glutathione. So any potential side effect of any drug can be markedly reduced.
Wow.
Another causes of side effect is not the micronutrient deficiency it induces, and a couple of examples I gave you, but also in some cases, the way the drug is metabolized is by the liver. And liver, there is an enzyme called P450. That's the name of the enzyme. But there is an enzyme which takes care of destroy any excessive excretion of any drugs. So what many drug does, go ahead.
Pause there 1 second, Dr. Prasad.
Mm-hmm.
Because before we go on to talking about that liver, those two things you just mentioned, I think the audience really needs to kind of get what you just said.
Yeah.
You just said that Lipitor, though it does have a major side effect,
Yes,
and can cause all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
You're saying that you bring CoQ10 into the conversation and you can almost neutralize most of the side effects of Lipitor.
Yeah, because it is in the same pathway. So if you use Lipitor, you have to decrease coenzyme Q10. There is no way you can avoid it. And so some of the side effects, that's muscle pain, low energy or things, could be related to not only, in this case, was the coenzyme Q10, but could be other deficiency of micronutrient as well.
Right.
But coenzyme Q10 for sure. And you know how important coenzyme Q10 is to make energy.
Critically important. Critically important. And then you also connect glutathione to this. So everything that the FDA and other drugs admit to reducing in the body. So if you bring in the precursors to glutathione, once again, you're neutralizing the side effects of most of the drugs.
Exactly. And plus also, sometimes you could have a B vitamin deficiency, could have vitamin A. They have not measured it. But if they measure it, they will find there could be a deficiency of that micronutrient. An important thing is that the micronutrients, a mixture of micronutrient, which has all the antioxidant and glutathione elevating agent, coenzyme Q10, and so on, and they don't interact adversely.
Okay, so it doesn't stop the drug. It doesn't stop the drug from working properly. It doesn't negate the benefits of the drug at all.
No. So those people who don't, I think they should take a medication. But what happens, especially in case of, say, for example, diabetes, that if you take a mixture of micronutrient, then your glucose gets further down. And so then your doctor starts reducing the dose of whatever dose of medication you are getting. And several people have reported that consumers who are taking the micronutrient, that after 6 months or so, they were on 5 different drugs. See, in diabetes cases, all the medications you take, including insulin plus other drugs, they don't affect the oxidative stress and inflammation, which are the major causes of the initiation and progression of diabetes.
That's right.
So until you inhibit them, they will do good because they reduce glucose. So for a short time, you will feel better and go, but still disease continue more gradually than your glucose is high. And so what the micronutrient does, it also try to reduce the glucose level, and in combination with medication, it does more. So when your doctor sees that, your glucose is too low, let me reduce or you ask, or doctor themselves say that I will reduce your doses of insulin. And that principle can apply to many other medications. For example, mentioned about the Lipitor. Sometimes doctor recommends 40, 80 milligram of, the Lipitor, but you can ask questions. Is it all right if I take only 20 milligram?
Right.
And that's what, I had myself a cholesterol problem in the past because I abused myself in diet. And Indians are a little more susceptible to cholesterol accumulation. So when I saw the doctor said, you should have started 40. I said, it caused a lot of toxicity. So not a lot of toxicity, but some. And then I said, can I reduce to 20? He said, that will be okay. and 20 milligram did as good as anything else. And so my wife takes only 10 milligram, and his cholesterol is very good. But reducing cholesterol is extremely important.
Yeah.
And if you combine with the standard therapy, with the micronutrient mixtures, then the amount of drug that you are taking, your doctor may be reduced.
So there is a potential side effect of the combination, is that the doctor could give you less of the medication. So there's a good benefit to this.
And so, it is always good, like you mentioned, Jonathan, that you consult your doctor and you have every right to ask him, is it enough? Can I reduce it? Another example I will give, for example, it also depends on the age of the person.
Right.
For example, right now, if you have a heart problem or heart disease, or you have any kind of thing, they recommend blood thinner, what is called Eliquis. Now, Eliquis, a standard dose is 5 milligram twice a day. That's a standard dose. That's very important because you want to prevent the stroke. So Eliquis is important. But then if you are a person of 80 and over, then he said, you take only 2.5 milligram. You see, but until you ask the doctor, because most of the clinical study has not been done on 80-year-old person or older. Most of the clinical study when you are 50s, 60s, but same dose cannot apply to person who are 80 years old because his system cannot handle higher dose.
Yeah.
So, but you have to ask the question to the doctor, and doctor will say, yeah, sure, or whatever he says. But always follow the advice of the doctor, and research shows that micronutrient can be very useful too to maintain your good health despite all those. And some of the medication is absolutely essential for your health.
Right. So Dr. Prasad, you just mentioned, so far you've mentioned 3 specific micronutrients. And I know that all 3 of those micronutrients happen to be in the formula that you put together.
Right.
Before we talk about that, could you tell us a little bit about, you had to prove to the United States government, when you presented your formula to the government, you had to prove to them that there would be no interaction with any pharmaceutical drugs. Was that part of the process?
Yeah. I mean, no, the way we did it, first we thought that, as you know, single antioxidant clinical study with beta-carotene in heavy smoker, vitamin E in heart disease, vitamin E alone, and then Alzheimer. In animal model, they produce fantastic results, positive results. But in a human, they fail. And the reason they fail, because single antioxidant cannot increase in oxidative stress, means excessive production of free radical, which then causes chronic inflammation. Until you reduce that, it is not going to have any impact on the disease process. And so, because this is the major cause of toxicity of drug, any progression of any disease, and so if you look the literature, you will see that no matter what kind of chronic disease have, also includes some of the medication as well, that increased oxidative stress and inflammation causes all the health issue problem. So, that's why I developed the multiple mixture of micronutrient, which has antioxidant, which has a vitamin B, all vitamin B. And so the reason then when we presented to the government, to the Department of Defense laboratory scientists, they said, yeah, looks like we have a rationale, but you have to test it. And then before testing it, so we put a proposal, but you can't do anything to military personnel until it is approved by what is called IRB, Institutional Review Board of Navy.
Okay.
That took 9 months to do that, approval, because they had all question of safety and why you are adding. So we satisfied them all. And then we did, as you know, clinical study with Marine Corps too. In Marine Corps in training, where they had a very high oxidative stress environment, and we wanted to measure it if micronutrient can reduce it. And indeed, they did reduce it. And this study was for 12 weeks, placebo, double-blind control study. So very nice study. And only it was 18-year-old kid who were being trained in Palm 29, to fight, to be prepared for a war. And when give micronutrient at that time, we used to call military micronutrient formulation.
Right.
Now we call the same thing micro daily. And so micro daily was very effective in reducing the oxidative damage in those troops during training, 12 weeks training. Then we tested it also in a veterans. Today's Veteran Memorial Day tomorrow. And we tested in veterans who were coming from war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And as you know, that they first go to Germany to get treated, and they suffered a concussive injury or traumatic brain injury. So when they, after 3 months, they come to Naval Medical Center in San Diego for further treatment. And so Captain Hoffer, who was the Navy captain at the time, became in charge of this program. And then we got approval again from the IRB of Medical Center. And then he ran a trial that one group got a standard therapy that they have been getting all these years. Another group got a standard therapy plus the macro daily. And 12-week study, and they were showing the symptoms of dizziness and balancing problem. These are the two. And Dr. Hoffer had a machine to quantitatively measure in terms of a number,
right,
all these criteria, both on dizziness and balancing problem. And they found that after 12 weeks, it was a blinded study, so nurse did not know who is taking what. And so after 12 weeks, when the label was open, they found that the combination group, which was getting a standard therapy and micro daily, did much, much better in all those criteria than the standard therapy group alone. So
there
that
it
was
is.
a very powerful study.
There
so
it is.
Then government said, yeah, that's very important, and so that was the story behind the development of micro daily. And since then of course, the rest of the history, that David Navelkat took over all these things.
Yes. And we're very fortunate that that you started down that road, and now we have access to it. You were about to mention, and that's very powerful, because what you just said, I hope everybody was listening, that in those clinical studies, combining standard care therapy along with micronutrients, there was no downside to it. There was only an upside. They did better. They simply did better. So and that's a big deal.
True. This could be true to most of the diseases. And I give you another example, but they have not tested it. Right now, the classical drugs that we use in say, for example, Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you another example in addition to diabetes. Alzheimer's disease is called cholinesterase inhibitor. In other words, the enzyme which destroys acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a chemical transmitter in the brain, and it stores the memory and recalling capacity. So if this molecule is from your nerve cell is decreased or gone, then you can't remember anything. And so the drug is that there is an enzyme which is normally destroyed gradually, and then new acetylcholine is formed. So the classical drug right now is the enzyme which blocks the degradation of acetylcholine.
Uh-huh.
But the main reason, and then this is effective only for a few months. Why? You can ask question why. Because these drugs do not affect increased oxidative stress and chronic inflammation, which are causing the death of the neuron. So for your drug to work, neuron has to be alive. But if they're dead, there is no place where you can increase it.
The drug is useless.
There's no neuron.
Yep.
But nobody has tried it yet. But I'm trying to plead in all my review paper that I have published. I'm trying to propose this idea. It is a common sense. If you know why he's dying. Even for example, right now accepted theory is amyloid protein.
Yeah.
Amyloid protein, they said this is the main cause of the death of nerve cell. because your nerve cell has to be alive in order for your drug to work. So I suppose you missed all these previous oxidative stress and everything else. Now you have a lot of amyloid in your nerve cell. The last step by which the amyloid causes damage is free radicals. It generates a lot of free radicals.
Wow.
So that's even in the later stage. And so if you block, and then people have done published experiment, that in a simpler system like cell culture, if you add beta amyloid, they kill the cell. If you add vitamin E or coenzyme Q10 or alpha lipoic acid, they prevent the death totally, 100%.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And all of those, every one you just mentioned, all of those cross the blood-brain barrier in your formula.
Exactly. That's also I've observed in my laboratory. We have a nerve cell culture, which my fellow who are working in my lab, he knew how to put a gene in a nerve cell, a culture, simpler cell. And so he put an Alzheimer gene in a cell culture model in nerve cell culture. And as you know, if you have mutated gene of Alzheimer, you develop Alzheimer earlier in your days. So he put these cells, and then we found that after a few days, they start dying.
What?
I start dying.
Yeah.
Because of the amyloid.
Okay. Yes. Gotcha. Uh-huh.
And then I told them, well, put some vitamin E there, vitamin E acetate or succinate. And so we tried that. It prevented death some, but then I put a mixture of antioxidant that we all have in a micro daily. Then it was 100% protected.
Oh my goodness, Dr. Prasad.
So even a simpler model, which I published this information, these are all published information. And so here is a simple model and that you put your Alzheimer gene.
Oh, wow.
That tells you that even people who have a family history of Alzheimer's,
genetically predisposed to Alzheimer's would benefit.
Yeah, if you're disposed to because of mutation, you can delay the onset. Instead of early days, you can have a 60, 70, 80 years. At that time, nobody cares.
That's powerful, Dr. Prasad. Well, I think there's right now we have about 77 people that are on this meeting now, and a whole bunch more that are going to get the recording. I think they care. So this will be music to all of our ears. So that helps me feel more confident in taking micro daily every day. I'm taking high doses of it right now, by the way, when I travel, especially. But tell us this, Dr. Prasad. That's also phenomenal. That's multiple examples of how the side effects of medication can be ameliorated by adding micronutrients to the conversation. Tell us a little bit more about this liver issue, because liver disease, fatty liver, it's all that's on the rise right now. There's so many things in our diet that's causing liver problems and fatty liver to develop. But more significantly, pharmaceutical drugs contribute to liver problems. So please tell us a little bit more about how micronutrients
not all drugs contribute to liver damage, but some drugs might contribute. Mm-hmm. And as I said, that one of the reasons of disease oxidative damage by free radical, because most of the drugs will generate free radicals. And if you have excess amount of free radicals and your body is depleted, and so the more, say, for example, glutathione is decreased or more coenzyme Q10, then more damaging becomes that drug to your not only liver, but liver is the place where all the drug gets metabolized and excreted. So your liver is not functioning well, then your drug level will increase and will in your plasma and will cause further damage.
Right. Okay.
So it is very important to have a normal liver so that whatever drug you are taking, it is getting metabolized, and therefore it will take much longer to express the toxicity. So, but if you are not doing anything micronutrient and not reducing oxidative stress, then you start getting liver damage, then whatever drug you are taking is not being destroyed in the liver, and therefore you will have more. It is almost cycle. Then you will have more damage, more problem.
So high levels of glutathione in my liver keep my liver happy. So instead of fatty liver, I got happy liver if I have high levels of glutathione in my liver. That's.
I will call you a little later.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So keeping my glutathione levels high in my liver then is really important, Dr. Prasad.
Yeah, not only, I mean, especially glutathione, but overall micronutrient.
Overall.
Should be high in your liver, and therefore any potential toxicity can be markedly reduced.
That's powerful.
And so that's why I always suggest people, that, but not many people follow it. And then you suffer. See, many times, that by discovery of new medication, like you mentioned, you have prolonged the lifespan.
Right.
The quality of life is not as good.
Yeah.
If you don't do anything, micronutrient or good diet and good environment, good lifestyle, if you don't do anything, you can live longer, but with poor quality life.
Right. Gotcha. So tell me this then, Dr. Prasad, the other thing that was mentioned on the FDA's website, besides liver damage, they mentioned heart issues.
Yeah.
Now, I happen to know, I'm not sure, let me just show this real quick, as long as we're in this portion of our discussion. You wrote this book, Fighting Cancer with Vitamins and Antioxidants, but you also wrote a book, Fighting Heart Disease with Vitamins and Antioxidants.
Yeah.
And on the list of patents that you have, there's several of them here that mention heart health. The one here with the U.S. Navy mentions heart health. The one here with the Metro Fire Department mentions heart health. The one with the U.S. Army mentions heart health. Can micronutrients then help the heart not suffer so badly from the side effects of medication, as you mentioned? Same thing with the liver.
Yeah, I think, for example, I'll give you one clinical study we did with Dr. Jeffrey Boone, who is a cardiologist of Bronco. He's a good friend of mine. And so while I was in Denver, we ran a study on firefighter, like it is listed here. And the firefighter was divided. Some people, his control was a historical control who were just taking a Lipitor alone. And then he compared that with the lipid profile. And this study was on firefighter, about 70 people, and before and after the micro daily. And the study was for 1 year. And in between time, like 3 months, 6 months, he measured the lipid profile of the individual who were taking micro daily, and also measured the thickness of what is called intima medial thickness. In other words, thickness of the carotid artery by ultrasound measured. So these are the criteria. And so at the end of 1 year, he found that in people who were taking a Lipitor, and they had a gradually increase, like you will see as you age, increase in the thickness of the wall of the carotid artery. But those people who were on micro daily alone, they did not have that increase in thickness.
Oh my goodness.
That is phenomenal. And because, as you know, if you let it grow thick, and then it can reduce the blood flow to your brain, and eventually it could cause a stroke.
Yeah.
And so this was very, very exciting observation that the antioxidant or micronutrient, mixture of micronutrient, can modify the tissue. It is a tissue modification, not just destroying free radicals and inflammation. It prevented the tissue becoming worse. And so this was most exciting experiment, in my opinion. And so I think in heart disease, especially from prevention point of view, see, there are two issues. One is prevention and one is the treatment. So these kind of things, if you are young, like 40, and then take micro daily, micronutrient would be, you won't develop any deficiency, and therefore you can reduce any heart-related illness.
Well, that's phenomenal. So the potential side effects from just about any medication.
Yes.
People can be less afraid now of taking their medication and adding micronutrients to the conversation, because really we're just talking about the food that's missing from the food. That's the way I look at micro daily. It's the food that's missing from the food.
What you're missing from the food and environment and the kind of lifestyle. Exception is one. One exception would be the cancer medication.
Yeah.
Cancer medication, there are two issues. One is prevention. One is when you are getting treated, or when you have a cancer and you are going to treat. So there are three different issues with respect to micronutrient. So prevention of cancer, micronutrient is very important, at least plus change in a diet, lifestyle, and so on is important. And but when you take a chemotherapeutic agent or you have, suppose that you have a cancer, and if you take a low dose of micronutrient, that may not have any effect, or may, in some cases, some kind of cancer may stimulate the growth of the cancer cell. So you don't want to take it. Once you have established diagnosed cancer, then low dose antioxidant is no good, or micronutrient, any kind of micronutrient. And so there you follow doctor advice, whatever he says, and treatment. Even during treatment, it is not a good idea, because most of the chemotherapeutic agent, like ionizing radiation and other drugs, they mediate their action, killing effect through free radical. They generate a lot of free radicals. And so if you block the free radicals, then it is a problem. But after treatment, then you develop all kind of potential side effect after treatment. Their micronutrient can be very useful.
Much better for them.
That's right. And I have submitted a patent that we should get now in a few months, and I have published information. There is a lot of experimental data available that high doses of antioxidant, which is much higher than what we have in microdaily, high doses of antioxidant can kill cancer cell, but not normal cell.
That's powerful.
High doses of antioxidant can enhance the effect of radiation and chemotherapeutic agent on cancer cell, but not on normal cell, but have to be high dose. And therefore, but nobody has done a clinical study on this. And that's why the patent is, they're suggesting it, that somebody should try a clinical study. And there is a lot of experimental data published to support this viewpoint. Then you can ask, how come high dose antioxidant does all these things so selectively? The main reason is because cancer cells require two essential nutrients for survival. One is sugar or glucose, another is glutamine. What people did experiment in a simpler cell culture model, they deprived sugar, cancer will die. They deprived glutamine, cancer will die. And so, but the glucose is used for energy, as you know.
Right.
Through Krebs cycle and mitochondria. But cancer cell uses different pathway, very inefficient pathway. And so that's why they need much more sugar to survive. And so what high dose antioxidant does, it blocks the uptake of both glucose and glutamine. So it dies of starvation, and not by free radical or anti-inflammation, anything. No, on that level is totally different effect in cancer cell than in normal cell. Normal cell, it doesn't do very much.
Wow, Dr. Prasad, that's one of those mind-boggling concepts right there. We would definitely recommend any of our clients to take high doses of a combination of micronutrients if they're dealing with it.
You tell people that consult your doctor. Always say consult your oncologist.
Always talk to your doctor.
Yeah. And work with your doctor. Work with your oncologist if you have a cancer. But these are experimental informations. Nobody has tried in human. But I'm providing this as information for you to when you discuss with your oncologist.
That's powerful, and that's amazing to hear. We could go on for hours here talking about this, and I'm going to do part B of this discussion with you maybe in a few weeks, because I want to dig a little deeper into some of the other ways that side effects manifest themselves, because we all know that the thing that doctors will do to try to ameliorate many issues including in the early stages of this pandemic, they were prescribing steroids and things like that a lot. So, but there has to be an argument for doing other things to ameliorate other issues. So somewhere in the next few weeks, we'll have this discussion some more.
Sure.
But before we wrap up, let's see if we can't bring Jeff back in here, because he had a personal story where someone in his family was suffering with the side effect of a recent medication, and micronutrients just brought the situation to a halt, even when mainstream medicine and doctors had pretty much thrown in the towel. So anyway, let's just let Jeff tell the story.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. And what an incredibly information-packed Sunday evening we have had here. This is just amazing. I mean, all the way through this, you're so good at just kind of leading the discussion, and Dr. Prasad is so incredible at remembering the actual cell culture models and the studies and everything else that proves all of this. It's like, darn, he has it locked away, and we are all benefactors of that. But it's really,
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting, kind of right here, as your story brought in Dr. Prasad's research and understanding about the use of this multiple micronutrient formulation called MicroDaily. Our favorite is the flagship product. This is the MicroDaily EMF product, and I can tell you that somebody extremely close to me, my father, Arnold Ashby, has been taking the military. Well, he was one of our first guinea pigs ever on this one. Okay. And now almost 9 years later, he's enjoying this one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just, with the sake of time, I won't give all of the backstory, but I'm saying it was almost a year ago, and because of his age and just some decisions that were made in the family, he did some things to ameliorate the effects of the pandemic. Let's just say that. I can say, he kind of did this. I'll give the little hand signal of it. And since that, things haven't gone as well for him, but he's still taking the standard dose of the MicroDaily. It says 3 capsules 2 to 3 times a day. He's just been taking 3 capsules twice a day. So morning and evening, his morning meal and his evening meal. Well, I want to explain here about the first of the year. His condition was just worsening, and he had a little mini stroke. Well, we took him into the doctors. I didn't. My younger brother took him in, and the doctors started observing some issues with his blood production. His platelet count was extremely low, and so they were concerned about that. He had developed a condition, and I had to have my brother spell it out to me, but it's called megakaryotic hypoplasia.
Wow.
It's a blood disorder in the leukemia family that he had developed. And his condition was just declining and declining. And it actually caused another mini stroke here at the end of April. Wow. And so he kills over. My brother finds him. He's got issues. He's had to have a physical therapist come into his home to take care of things. He's had to have an occupational therapist come in to see if he could take care of his own needs there in the house. It's been really difficult. Well, 3 weeks ago, my dad and the brother just younger than I am that is there in Salt Lake City with him, they took him to the doctors. And he'd done rounds of steroid drugs. He's done about everything that they could, and they said, Mr. Ashby, we've got one last resort to help your body kick into this blood production again.
Oh my goodness.
Or you just need to go home and get your affairs in order. So as you started out tonight, Jonathan, you talked about your mom being there, and you needed to get that immune system kicker in her. Well, this is the same information. They just said, we need to try and jumpstart and push your blood production. And so they recommended this. It's a drug that is introduced to the body similar to a chemotherapy, where it has to be an infusion. They're infusing a combination of all, it was a cocktail of incredible things to kind of jumpstart Dad's blood production. Get this, Jonathan, though. Gamma Guard is the name of it, and it was $30,000 per infusion.
Wow.
And they recommended 3 infusions, a Thursday, a Friday, and a Saturday.
Wow.
It was
$90,000.
$90,000 and 3 hours of time. That's where the doctors had gotten to with all of this.
Wow.
And so 3 weeks ago, they called and they said, this is what we're facing as a family. We need to help Dad understand that that's a lot of money, even if insurance is paying for a portion of it. And I can tell you, insurance came back and they would not pay for the entire amount, but that's not the issue. What I'm excited about is they called me and they said, what can we do? And that was soon after I'd had a conversation with Dr. Prasad in a live event like this, where he talked about the use of elevated doses of the micronutrients. Okay. So Dad's already been taking 3 capsules in the morning and 3 capsules in the evening. That's a bottle of 180 capsules in 1 month. So roughly $80. That's what he's spending. Well, as a family, and this is, Dad's included in this decision, we decided to take Dr. Prasad's recommendation to heart. What did he have to lose? Almost $100,000, or let's take a little bit more of the micro daily. And I can tell you, Jonathan, he started it. This was a Wednesday night. We decided, Dad went right home and he took 9 capsules that Wednesday night. Thursday morning, he gets up and he takes another 9 capsules Thursday morning. Thursday afternoon, he takes another 9 capsules. Thursday night, he takes another 9 capsules. So it's not just, it's 3 timesing that. So 27 capsules in a day. That pretty much means that he would be going through an $80 bottle a week.
Yeah, well, okay. Still, we're only talking about $240 for the month versus $90,000.
It's $90,000.
So I can
$250,000.
So I can tell you, by Friday night, there was such an improved difference in Dad that he asked us to put together a family Zoom. Wow. And so I'm the oldest of 7 children. All of my siblings and Dad got together, and we saw him live in a Zoom like this, talk about how much better he is feeling and how he can do some of these things for himself now, how he doesn't feel like the invalid that he had been. And you know what the crowning thing was? Monday, when his occupational therapist showed up, she said, I have gone through my checklist, Mr. Ashby, and every one of the things that we were concerned about you taking care of yourself are gone. In fact, she says, I'm going to recommend that I don't come back again, but I can't do that. I need to have my boss come in. But that's the difference. Jonathan, I'm saying, so here we are, we're about 2.5 bottles, into this little experiment. Dad couldn't be more excited. My brothers and sisters are just beside themselves. Everybody's woken up to what Dr. Prasad just suggested. And he says, it may be that just small doses of the microdaily isn't enough.
Right.
And we had that firsthand experience with Dad. And so thank you, Dr. Prasad. And thank you, Jonathan, for letting me come on and talk about it. I mean, I was a little discouraged. I was a little discouraged coming into the end of the year and finding out that he's just going downhill, and it just really wasn't enough, because we're out there telling people that, this is, but Dad had this in his system.
That's right.
But he had a reaction, call it what it is, to to it.
A pharmaceutical, yeah.
Pharmaceutical.
Mm-hmm.
And his body was not, even with the microdaily on board at a normal dose, it wasn't enough to swing that teeter-totter in the right level.
No, you got to go hard.
Yeah.
You got to go hard in the right direction.
Yeah. And what was the side effect of the microdaily?
Zero.
Well, you know what? He doesn't have to have the occupational therapist come in anymore.
Well, he saved $89,000.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Jeff. And I'm glad that you're willing to share that story. I think everybody needs to hear this, because many that are on the call now have had some positive benefits from taking microdaily. I know personally. How old is your father, by the way?
83.
He's 83. Okay, so he's got 23 years on me, but I can't take just 3 capsules twice a day. While we were traveling, for example, I think that I can do anything. I think I can do what I did in my 30s. So I'm lifting up these large bins, because we bring our whole business life with us when we come up here, because we're here for 3 months. So I'm lifting things in and out of the car, and plus a cooler. I call it the refrigerator. The cooler is on the end. I'm lifting it. By the time we get to the first hotel, I need to be in traction. My lower back is, it's like red hot on fire. So I just went back to my 666 protocol, and the next day I was just fine. All the inflammation is down, and by the time we got here, I'm unloading the car by myself, no help at all. I don't know what my sister-in-laws would be, of any value in unloading the car anyway, but I'm able to do it with no problem. So the standard dose for someone who's got a few more miles on them is definitely, I recommend more for other folks like that. And in your case with your father, this is proof that if we got pharmaceuticals in our system, that you may need to have even more to overcome the side effects, as Dr. Prasad was saying. Is there any rationale to conclude that, Dr. Prasad, that taking more to overcome certain side effects might be?
Yeah, but under extreme cases, like his father was in extreme cases, you go that high. But in a normal condition, like 3 times is enough. But until you have an extreme case, like in his case, then one can go high. But then after a week or 2 weeks, then you come back.
He should be able to go back to normal.
Heavy. But for prevention purpose, 2 doses for most of the people is enough. But again, it varies from one individual to another. But the question is, if you take it 3 or 4 times for a short time, it has no toxicity.
That's it.
And the only toxicity there that we know of is that if your vitamin dosage is more than 10,000 international unit, then it can cause some, in older individual, it can cause some bone problem, and like osteoporosis type, and otherwise, for example, selenium. If you have we have 100 microgram of selenium in your body, and you take 100 microgram from U.S. diet for 200. But if you double it, like if you take a 400 international unit, then the risk of liver damage and the risk of a cataract formation increases. And so these are the only 2 ingredients where the window of safety for long-term consumption,
long term,
not a month or 2, but long-term consumptions can induce some toxicity. The rest of them are
no problems.
Not at all.
That's good to know.
But again, it is a long-term issue, but in the short term, you can increase until you get stabilized, and then gradually, not suddenly,
gradually
come
taper back down
2 times a day. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's very important, gradually. Otherwise, if you are in a very high dose, for example, and suddenly you go to twice a dose, then your body feels deficiency because
Right.
your body was getting used to higher dose.
Right.
Well, I can tell you some of the other side effects are the bruising that he had on his arms and his legs from the most previous fall were not going away. And now they are. And so it's taking care of bruising. It's taking care. I mean, he feels like he can get around on his own again. He feels like there's
again, that extreme cases, anything is okay, better than your decision was correct because there is nothing to lose.
Exactly.
But most of the people are not under that kind of acute conditions. But again, it divides, your individual decision, individual health conditions, and what your doctor says.
Very good. Very good. Well, Dr. Prasad.
Just really quick, Jonathan, and I'm just responding to somebody here in the chat. On Thursday, they're going to go back in and have Dad's blood work done because we want to.
We got to hear what happened. We got to hear what happened.
So next Sunday, if we don't have something between now and Thursday, I'll let you know. I'll let everybody know what the doctors. They're probably going, dang it, we just missed out on $100,000 worth of insurance fees. But I'll let you know.
Well, absolutely. Please come back next week. And in fact, everyone who's on, you're welcome to join us again next week. And if you know that there's someone who could have benefited from this program that didn't hear it now, just send me a text message, and I will share the link with you once we've got it prepared and uploaded and edited. 754-300-8909. And we'll share the link with you so you can share it with someone who you think may have benefited from this program, so that it'll be available. But please keep in mind, folks, we always have to just make sure everyone understands this, that testimonials are purely anecdotal. What happens to one person may not happen to you. We don't know all the clinical circumstances surrounding the results that were achieved. So we hear Jeff tell his father's story. That's a firsthand personal story. He can share his story that happened to him and his family. So, but don't expect it will happen to everybody in every case, because we just don't know. We have to always make sure the FDA requires that statement be made. No natural product is considered to be a treatment or cure for any disease state. So we're not making any medical claims about Micro Daily, and Dr. Prasad certainly does not want to be connected with any medical claims whatsoever.
Correct.
He's just presenting the facts and the science as he has observed it and as we're seeing it in this case. So please make sure you speak to your primary healthcare physician about any treatment or suggestion of treatment. So we're not making any medical recommendations here. Dr. Prasad, do we have time to maybe take one or two questions? Because we've already gone over time.
Okay, one question.
Okay, so Monica Barnes has been flagging her hands here for a while. I'm going to answer a few in the chat, but let's go ahead and hear Monica's question.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hi. I start mine. I got mine last week, and I start Wednesday gone. In the position I have, it's so much complaint. So I just wanted to know if I can boost up mine. I'm diabetic. I have neuropathy in my feet. I can't use my two hands. They're so crampy. I can't get to handle them. My body's weak. I'm dizzy. When I bend over, I tend to fall. It's so much going on. But I just started them last week, Wednesday. So I want to know, can I boost it up by doing 4? Like doing 9 a day too?
You said you have not been taking it already?
I just started last Wednesday. This Wednesday gone. I just started. I ordered mine and I got all 3.
Stay on the regular dose.
Yeah, that's okay. But did she say that she felt dizzy?
When I hold my head down or close my eyes, I feel like I'm gonna fall.
Okay, yeah, you need to make sure you're drinking plenty of water. And did you say you're diabetic?
Yes.
Yeah, but it is sometimes it is possible that if you are taking this micronutrient, then you can become what is called hypoglycemic, means your blood sugar is too low, and therefore you have to consult your doctor if he can reduce some of the medication or not. And
Okay,
because
sorry.
I
I
pre-
check them and sometime I'm running up in the 300.
Oh, wow. Yeah, wow. Wow. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. If your sugar levels are running that high, make sure you're drinking plenty of water and still take microdaily with food, though.
But my hypoglycemia can be caused, Jonathan, with very low glucose.
She said that her sugar levels is going up to 300 when she's feeling that
300.
way. Yeah, she
Oh,
said it's very
wow.
high at that time.
First
Oh,
thing in the
that's
morning, last
very
thing in the night, 300, and in the morning sometime 2 something. Could
Yeah.
it be
Yeah.
how I'm eating?
Say again?
Could it be caused from the way how I eat?
Yes, it's very possible. Send me a text and let's take a closer look at what's going on there. But you may need to take higher doses, or you may need to take it more frequently. Not super high, but you may need to take it more frequently. Okay?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Don.
Sure.
Yeah, we're happy to help. So interesting situations that folks are going through with their health. So everyone's desperate to try to get some answers.
Yeah,
So just keep in mind. Go ahead, Dr. Prasad.
Yeah. Sometimes, if you have eating too much sugar or sugar-containing food, drinks, that can influence it.
Mm-hmm.
And so under that kind of conditions, maybe 3 times a day would be okay for a short time. But the sugar level is also, I'm sure that she's under doctor care,
Right.
because 300 is too much. And so sometimes prescription drug is important because that is quickly bring the relatively, at least the sugar content, and A1C maybe take little time. But so the combination will be very helpful, but she should see the doctor if she's not already seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm under my doctor care. I just did my A1C and it's very high. I don't want to say the number. It's very high.
Right. Yeah. No, you have to. You're gonna have to act quickly to help bring it down. Add dandelion tea to your diet also, just as a regular basis. Just stay on dandelion tea as well. That will also help you in general. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Nope. Thank you. And Dr. Prasad, we can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Johnson,
for being willing to join us and have these kinds of discussions. And thank. We look forward to getting you back again, hopefully in about 3 weeks or so.
Sure.
So we're going to have a follow-up discussion about this. Folks need to know that they need to stick with their doctor's recommendations, but they can do something to slow down the impact of side effects.
Right.
Yep. So don't just stop anything cold turkey. You can get better. Just help your doctor who's helping you. So that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
So everybody, please keep in mind again the disclaimers that we gave earlier, but you feel free to unmute yourselves now if you'd like to thank Dr. Prasad for his time and being with us. And we'll see you guys all next week again at 5 o'clock.